What's up, TPE? Up next, we have somebody who I believe needs no introduction. Hailing from the land of the trill, Constable Christopher Bates is someone who loves his community. Chris is a family man married with 3 children and has a passion for his people. Chris has a scholarship program, toy drive, and other various volunteer opportunities in Port Arthur, Texas. I can't wait for you guys to hear his insight on leadership and law enforcement, and hopefully something he can share in this episode that will help you pivot into your next. Let's go. Take this mind of mine. All right, what's up, Bates? You doing all right today, man?
I'm doing pretty good, Alex. How you doing,
I'm
man?
doing good. I'm doing good, man. So I don't know if you remember this or not, but we first crossed paths. I think you were sitting waiting to get your haircut at Ryan David's, Ryan Hargraves' barbershop, and I think we had a couple of times where we kept having that interaction until where we got to a point in which we started having dialogue beyond the barbershop. And I've always admired what you've done in your community. We don't live in the same city. We don't necessarily serve directly the same people, but we're not too far away from each other. And I definitely see what you do from a distance within your community, the voice that you have, the respect that you have. And I think you are the perfect individual to come onto the TPE, come onto the Pivot Experience and talk about what has been the things that exist in your life that drive you and fuel you to do the things that you do. But before we get to all of that, I got a question, okay? And
Yes,
this
sir.
might
Yes, sir.
sound like common knowledge, or most people should know this already, but I'm asking this a little bit selfishly for me. You're a constable, right?
That's it. That's it.
Now, what's the difference between a constable and a sheriff, and what you would call like a just a normal police officer? Can you explain that briefly? What are the differences between those positions?
Definitely can give you that information, and it's not a question of common knowledge like you were saying. I get this question asked of me the most every year, and so that's the number one question. What's the difference between the constable and the police or the sheriff? And so um, the story that I give and the information that I give is that the constable, the sheriff, the police officer that works for the city, we are all what we call peace officers. So in the state of Texas, we all had to go to the police academy, and we all had to take a state test. And when we passed that test, we became peace officers. And so it depends on where you are hired at that will give you your designation and your duties and your responsibilities. So as a constable, my main responsibility and duties, according to the Texas Constitution, is to serve the civil process for the county and the courts that are within, mainly the justice of the peace. So we'll get civil papers of people getting sued for small claims courts. We work with the Attorney General's office, finding individuals and serving them child support papers. We hold auctions and things of that nature to satisfy debts. If someone has been sued and they can't satisfy and pay that money, then we levy upon or take property, and we have auctions that we have to sell the property, and then that money goes to that plaintiff that won that original case. And sometimes we work with CPS where we have to take kids from one household to another, and the main thing is that we deal with evictions with dealing with the JP and the eviction court. And so we do all those civil duties and responsibilities. But as the constable in the state of Texas, we can do any other traffic or criminal investigation, arrest. We can do all of the above. And so and the sheriff and the sheriff's deputies are the only other law enforcement agency that can do civil process and criminal investigations as well. And so when you think about the municipal police officers, like Beaumont PD or Port Arthur PD, they don't necessarily do civil process. They answer calls that are directly from the people within the city, and then they go out and investigate. And so they don't do civil; they just do strictly traffic and criminal investigations. But the constable and the sheriff do both civil and criminal investigations. But the constable's main duty is just do the civil. So we're kind of broken up here in Jefferson County within 6 precincts. And so we just take care of the whole county doing the civil process. And the sheriff, they don't really do a lot of civil here in Jefferson County. That may vary from county to county. The sheriff takes care of the jail and and patrols the county areas outside of the city limits. And so each agency in law enforcement period just has duties and responsibilities and jurisdiction that we kind of work within. And so we all are peace officers 100%, but we all have different duties that we do to make sure that we're just working together and getting taking care of business within our communities.
You know what? If I don't ask you any more questions today, that was very enlightening, and it makes a ton of sense. When you think about law enforcement, your mind defaults to the criminal activity, not necessarily the exercising of actual other laws, like other than criminal things. And so, like that cleared up a
Right.
lot for me in terms of like just the difference. I see the cars, and I go, well, can they pull me over? Do they have the authority to pull me over? So basically, anybody who got lights and lettering most likely has the authority to exercise the criminal side of things. Just you guys have that extended responsibility to be able to help the courts walk through, I guess, judgments and things of that nature, right?
Absolutely.
Man, so
Absolutely. Absolutely.
so what made you? What made you? So I'm assuming you had the option to either be a police officer or to be a. Now, what did you ever serve as just a police officer prior to becoming a constable, or how did that go?
Yeah. Yeah, man. So I first started working in Port Arthur Police Department. And that's where I'm born and raised here in Port Arthur. And so I started there, went to the academy, and it was kind of by chance that happened. I was in school at Lamar, actually going to school to be a elementary school teacher. After I changed my major from music, because I was a music major for a while, and then from there, man, things just kind of changed up, and I seen a good friend of mine that was in law enforcement, and he was telling us how good the benefits were, and you can work security here and make some good money and whatnot. So me and my two other friends that were listening to this speech, we went and decided to take the police test, and I always tell the story just like it is. I said I passed and they failed, and they still my boys today, but they probably it happened for a reason. I put it like that.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah, yeah. Do
but
you think? Go ahead.
but I went on and went through the academy, man, and and I got out the academy and I started working for Port Arthur Police Department, and I worked for them for about a year and a half before I went to work for truancy for another police agent, constable's office here in Port Arthur, Precinct 8, and I did that for a while until the time the county commissioners and not all of them, but the majority of them decided that they were going to be doing some budget cuts on the deputy constables, and so I was the last one in. That means with the budget cuts come, I was the first one out, and so I ended up leaving the constable's office, and I was able to go to work for Port Arthur ISD Police Department the first time around that they created it, and then I worked there for a couple of years until the school board at that time decided they wanted to move in a different direction from the school district police department, and so I was looking at changing jobs again. My family was young, and but the constable was retiring in precinct 2, and I just I always had the thought and ambition to run for office. And this, I was in law enforcement, and the constable position just came up, and so I ran for constable in 2011 and going into 2012, and I was victorious, man. And so I took office in 2013, and so it wasn't something I tell people all the time. I didn't grow up wanting to be in law enforcement. That wasn't something. I didn't have any family members, anybody in law enforcement, and so it just kind of happened. But when I was getting into it, I said to myself, "This is something I can do," and I've been with it ever since. So it was one of the best decisions that I made in my life.
So next year, it sounds like you're going to be celebrating 10 years as the constable for Port Arthur, Texas, right? Well,
Yep, yep.
congratulations to you for that, man. Appreciate your service. I know your job has to be difficult, especially when you add in the complexity of having to fulfill the law beyond just the criminal thing. Typically, when you're, I mean, the
Right.
criminal things are pretty dangerous, but like you kind of know what that is, for the most part, versus
Right.
this other part. There's different elements to that, and kudos to you for protecting that community and holding up your end of the deal for the law. Now, the question I have
Thank you.
is that I've observed you. You have a scholarship program in Port Arthur. You always do a toy drive in Port Arthur. The majority of leadership driven things, I see your face in either directly in the mix or at least you're in the crowd. Like, what pushes you to want to kind of continue to be at the forefront of your community and lead with excellence the way that you do?
Man, and I get that question a lot as well. And people say, "Man, when you gonna take a break, or when you doing this? I see you doing this." And for me, it's important. When I decided to run for constable again, I had always had aspirations to do something political, so that I can have a better influence to help individuals. And so now in this capacity, even as constables, I say, well, just a constable. Well, an elected official has influence, and so I just made it my point and my duty to use whatever influence the Lord had allowed me to have to do what's right by the people. And so it's so important for me that a person, got dressed, got in their car, drove to the voting location and punched my name in so that I could be their constable. So I take that to heart. And so it's important for me to give back as much as I can, because not only myself, but every elected official, we're not here just because we filled out an application and we got selected. We worked for it, and people, like yourself and others, go out and vote for us. And so we have the obligation to make sure that we give back in any capacity that we can. And again, my constable duties are what they are, but I'm a community servant, and so that's what I'm gonna do. And so, far as the scholarship and the toy drive, and I do a summer camp, man, I'm just driven by knowing that each day and every event that I have, someone is getting help. I can't help everybody, but one by one, some people lives are being changed. A child is have a smile on their face. Someone is given hope through some of the actions that I do and working with other organizations. So that's my drive to continue moving forward each and every day.
I mean, and I think that's commendable and that's awesome for you to take that on, because I think you kind of said it indirectly. This is not a part of the gig as being constable. This
Yeah.
is not a part of it. And I guess transparently, me knowing you, you're not necessarily doing this as a play to try to perpetuate your status as constable. I think you're doing this out of the kindness of your heart. And I think that for anybody who's listening, this is not necessarily solely applicable to the role of constable. You already had said that, hey, any elected official should already kind of be serving in this capacity beyond what their responsibilities are. But I think if you hold any type of leadership or management position where you have some authority and people are serving you, you have some obligation to serve them.
Right.
Sometimes beyond just the letter of what it is that you do, man. So again, I appreciate you wanting to go above and beyond, and I think you are a great example to not only people who want to be in law enforcement, even though that would be your direct audience in terms of people looking at you as a role model, and in terms of people wanting to see what they can be as a peace officer. But I think it is a great example to other people who are in other professions that see somebody who's young like yourself, who's always had the mindset to want to try to give back. So I think that is awesome for you to do. Now, what do you think? And then this
Yeah.
might be a weird question, and so I'm gonna ask it anyway. Like, how do you view the work or the seeds that you are planting in the community now? Like, what type of results do you think that you're hoping to generate? Like, with you, I know you said you just wanted, kids to be happy and you wanted just to help, but like what type of issues do you think you're tackling by investing the time that you're investing beyond just the letter of your responsibilities?
Right. So that's a real good question, and it's so important that we sow the seeds, and we make sure that they have all the things necessary to grow. And so the seeds that I'm sowing now, some of them may grow faster than others, some of them may take a little bit longer, but it's so important for me to continue doing the things that I'm doing, because First off, I hope to establish hope for people, to just know that they have someone looking out for them. They have a person. I get calls about everything, not just law enforcement, not just civil process. I get calls about trash can and why my trash can get picked up, or I mean it's a lot of different things that I get called about, but it's important that they reach out to me because they have a relationship and all they know that Chris Bates is going to answer the phone and is going to give me the direction that I need. And so I'm hoping that with everything that's being done, that I have done, and the only way I'm doing it is through support of the community and other organizations. But I'm hoping that people, we change some of our generational of curses, so to speak, and people can grow and have some things in their lives to look forward to, and not just know and not know and know that there's more than just this area that they can go out. You can always come back on. I never left. I've been here. I'm a mama's boy, and so I can't leave mama. And so, but I go travel whatnot. But at the same time, I want people to know that they can take what they learned here in Port Arthur, Beaumont, Jefferson County, and they can go anywhere in the world and they can use their talents. And so I just hope to be an inspiration and just encourage people. And I get that a lot. People come up to me and say, hey, man, I remember you talked to me, or a kid. I go speak at these schools and they graduate and they be like, man, I remember you came spoke in my class. Man, this is what I'm doing now. And so those are also things that motivate and encourage me because on a daily basis, I get someone telling me how they have made their life better. And so not necessarily just through me, but just maybe just a couple of words. And so that just that in the back of my head, I'm like, Chris, you just got to keep on going because I let you know I get tired, man. It's a sacrifice. It's a family sacrifice as well, man. But this is what I signed up to do, and I'm going to continue doing it.
Man, you said two things that really jumped off the page to me in answering that question. Number one, how important it is to develop trust between you and the community. It sounds like to me, for people to have the trust to say, I know I can pick up the phone and Chris is a text away or a call away, and that he will answer. I think that plays a role in developing deepening trust for not only yourself as the individual Chris, but also just law enforcement in general.
Right.
I think a lot of times, and for some real reasons, not to go into detail, but like there's a lot of mistrust between law enforcement, no matter how it's represented, and the community.
True.
And so for you to want to make a conscientious effort to answer that phone call, it speaks volumes to you, not only for your own personal brand as the constable, but also just for law enforcement in general. And then the other thing you said is just about being open to the opportunity, because you never know when you have the opportunity to plant that seed. You know what I mean? And so when you get the phone call to go speak to the school, or you get the phone call to go talk to a group of men, a group of boys, young men that might need some intervention, not by you not shutting yourself off, you open up the window of opportunity to be able to impact somebody's life. And I think that like for me personally, I work at Chick-fil-A, and I think one of the biggest things that drives me to stay at that job is how I get the opportunity to change the trajectory of young people's thinking. You know what I mean? And so,
Right.
I'm around young folks, all day, and and sometimes I ain't gonna lie, you said it, it's tiring, it's a sacrifice. It's
Mhm.
there's some days you don't want to answer the question, or you don't want to be that person to have the knowledge, but I literally said this to myself on my way here. It's like, heavy is the head that wears the crown. And when
Right.
you have that responsibility, when you have that authority, that's on you. And it sounds like that you're someone who is taking that responsibility seriously, and then you're answering the call. So again, I can't say it enough. I know I said it after every time you respond. Just thank you for that, man, and I appreciate and I
Sure.
mean that sincerely, because particularly in Port Arthur, there's a we'll just say it like it's a reputation. It's almost like and I don't know, not saying this is exactly synonymous, but if somebody was to say, oh, well, we're going to the north end of Beaumont, like you're going to have some knee jerk reactions. If you're not from there, people are going to kind of put that area in the box. And and I think sometimes
Hmm.
people put Port Arthur in the box,
Yep.
informally beyond, and I'm gonna say this, informally beyond UGK, a lot of people don't have a whole lot that they point to Port Arthur for. Yeah, there's the refinery work,
Mhm.
there's stuff like that, but a lot of people don't look at Port Arthur as a serious contender. And I'm not saying that's me, but it's just what people say. And for you
Right,
to
right.
in some sense, it's like you put Port Arthur on your back almost. It's like, hey, I want to show that this is a real community. There's real people here. You can be successful no matter where you come from. I think I want to say Fred Vernon's from Port Arthur too. I think both of you guys kind
Yep.
of put on for Port Arthur in a big way in terms of just producing beyond what the stigma or expectation is. So I think you guys do a great job at that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes, sir.
Now, what would you call your leadership style, right? And so I know, do you have a staff of people that you manage or lead as constable?
Yep.
So
Yep.
what would you
Yep. Yeah.
go ahead?
Yeah, so my leadership style, yeah, I do have an office. It's myself, and then I have my chief deputy, I have a lieutenant, and I have my chief clerk, and then I have another clerk, and so we work well together. And so one of the things that was hard for me when I first came into as the constable was that I was, when I took office, I was 27. I was the youngest elected official in Jefferson County, the second youngest constable in the state of Texas, and the first African American constable to be in precinct 2. And so, but everyone in my staff was older than me. And so, but one thing that I thought was gonna, hinder me, but it didn't, is that people in my office, they really respect me because I respected them. And the way that I lead is that I expect people to take care of business. If you have a task, you have a job, you have a responsibility, then that's what I'm gonna hold you to. And so I don't lead, I don't, supervise over people's back or whatnot. I just expect people to do their job. And if people don't do their job, then we have things that we can do to fix that and help, cultivate or see what the problem is, before we get to, termination, anything like that. But I'm about working with people and working with, especially people that work for me, but also just in I've served in other, leadership capacities. And so it's important that I look at it as a servant leader style approach. And so I have to be out there, working and doing the work as well, so people can see, and people will buy in more when they see you out actually doing the work instead of just sitting in the office or just, just chilling out, not doing anything. And so, where you see my workers at or anyone that I'm leading, then you'll see me there because a true leadership and to me, what true leadership really means is that when I look on the side of me, I just don't see myself. I see, even in my peripheral, I will see the individuals that I'm leading right on the side of me, and that means that we're moving together. And so, if we're not moving together, then that's not leadership. So I think a lot of people look at that the wrong way, but understanding that true leadership is when you are bringing individuals alongside with you, and you are working towards the common goal. So that's how I look at my leadership skill style.
Man, that's so you don't micromanage. You trust that you've hired or you've put the right person in the position. You make sure that you give them the specifics of what you expect of them, and then you let them do their thing unless they don't live up to the expectation. And then there's some interventions or
Right,
some accountability measures that you put in place. But beyond that, you just for the most part just say, hey, I trust you to get the job done, and that's what it is.
right, exactly right, man. And so sometimes you do make a, not necessarily a bad call, but sometimes you just have to explain to people or get to them or work with them to show them how it's done before they can, really, be in a situation that's working for them. And so that's another thing that I try to, put people in the right place. Sometimes we put people in a place or they're gonna do good in this position. Well, that really may not be their forte, but they'll be better in this position. So you just have to be able to recognize that as well.
Okay. No, yeah, no, definitely. No, that helps me, and I'm sure it's gonna help somebody else to hear them say, you say that the level of trust that you have with the people that you work with. Um, if you could start all the way over, let's go back to if you were walking down the street and you saw 27-year-old Chris Bates, newly appointed, newly sworn in constable, and you have all the context of what you know now, what would you tell yourself? What bit of advice would you tell yourself then about what you know now?
Man, that's a good question, man, and I'm thinking about it, and you know, as a Christian, man, we 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 have our good days, we have our bad days, we make mistakes, we're not perfect, and so, some people may say it's crazy, but I'm grateful for the things that I've learned along the way, and so, I necessarily wouldn't change anything, but I would probably most likely listen a little bit more. There's so much advice, there's so much, you know, strategies and things that you can use to be successful. And so even when I go speak to young people, I said, if I can go back to even when I was in high school, and I know when these individuals came in and they come talk to us when we were in school, or I would listen more to what they were saying, so that can help me in my level of success. And so that's one of the things, and maybe I would have, matriculated quicker into what the Lord has me now or what He has for me in the future. And so one of my things is just making sure that I have I wish I would continue to listen and just cultivate what's being around me and use the good advice to help me and others be reach our highest point in our lives. So like I said, I wouldn't necessarily change anything because at some point in time I'm gonna have to jump that hurdle one way or another. So I'll just take it when it comes to me. But listening and understanding and also being a avid reader. I read now, but early on I didn't read a lot of books. I read for just for knowledge and just for reading and comprehension and things of that nature. But actually sitting there and reading books and seeing how other individuals have success stories, and that's what I do now. I say, well, I want to do this. I want to. How did this person get here? I go research that person. How did they get to where they went? How did they achieve this level of success? And what are the things that I have to do to get that level of success and success? Because I just can't make it up. If there's other people doing it, if I want to be a millionaire, there are a lot of millionaires out there. What do I need to do to become a millionaire? So we have to be able to understand that we have to research even success. And so we research a lot of stuff, but researching success is also should be a vital part of our lives as we grow.
Yeah, and I think if we were all honest with ourselves, we probably tell our younger self that we would all listen a little bit more. Number one,
Yeah,
just to address that, like I know I probably was like, I thought you knew everything, they elected me, so
yeah,
you walk with that bravado, and which is nothing necessarily wrong with that, but I would say I definitely agree with that context of listening more, and truthfully, I only read when I needed to. It was like, okay,
yeah,
emails. You only read certain stuff when it's a necessity, because you can make up every excuse that you want. I got family, I got work, I got this, I got that, and it's not. Those are not excuses. Those are real priorities. And so now,
yeah,
what it sounds like to me is that you're taking your own personal development seriously in terms of you pouring into yourself. As you pour into other people, you need to
right,
reinvest into yourself and kind of give yourself that boost as well, man. So Don, that was real good advice. Even though you said you wouldn't necessarily do anything, but those two things that you brought up are real good, for sure.
yes, sir.
And so before we get out of here, man, I just want to know, like, what are some initiatives that you're working on right now? Whether that's something that you got in the pipeline that has real legs and feet, or something that you're just thinking about, man, that you wish that you can get off the ground and maybe need some help doing so. Just like what you got going on.
Yeah, man. So of course I have my initiatives that I do throughout the year as far as my scholarship and my junior deputy camp and toy drive and I support a whole lot of other individuals and organizations. And so one of the things that I'm really trying to I work alongside. I'm the vice president of a nonprofit called Linda's Lighthouse, and so we're really trying to make sure that we grow within the community and actually help tackle some of the issues that we have with homelessness here in the city of Port Arthur. And so moving forward, those are some of the things, like I said, not necessarily on the constable side, but just, trying to see how we can help, provide social services to individuals and placement of homes. So, I mean, we have a hard freeze coming up this weekend, starting tomorrow evening, actually. And so people are going to be out, unfortunately, looking. And every time there's a hard freeze, there's a death, unfortunately. And we hope that everyone survives this hard freeze this weekend. But and so that's one of my passions, and then also working along the passion of the nonprofit is to see that how can we really put some efforts into um, helping individuals that need help, that are homeless. So that's one of my main things, and so that takes a lot of brain power, a lot of individuals working together. And so I'm going to really focus on that this year and these next coming years and see what we can do and solicit the help of anybody within the community.
When if I was in Port Arthur, if I was in the surrounding areas or not, how would I go about helping? You said Linda's Lighthouse. I don't want to mess the name up.
Yeah,
So how
no,
would I go
that's
about
perfect.
helping Linda's Lighthouse?
Yeah, so we do definitely have social media, Linda's Lighthouse at Facebook. We have our Instagram, and then we have our website, lindaslighthouse.org. And so if you go to any one of those outlets, you can definitely reach out to us. If you want to volunteer when we have events, we definitely can have just follows on our page, and we get volunteers all the time. If you want to contribute financially, there are definitely ways to donate on the website. And so, and then we'll be again, like I said, if you follow the page and social medias, we'll have it have things that's going out. And so, but this year we'll be pushing out more of our initiative, looking for grants. If anyone knows of grants that will be able to help and support communities within to help with homelessness, let us know. We can definitely apply for those and get some things rocking and rolling. So any help, any advice, because we don't have to reinvent the wheel. I know it's people have help within their communities and improve this. So we're definitely looking to make sure that we're there. So any help we can get is greatly appreciated.
I literally just followed Linda's Lighthouse on Facebook, man. And when we get done from here, I'm gonna share that. I mean, that cost me nothing to do
Yeah,
that and to solicit support. And I'm gonna tag you in that post, so we can kind of, at minimum, that's what we can do.
right.
Just create some awareness around that. And I would love to, if anything that I can do to try to help push what you guys are doing in that regard a little bit further, man. Not to say that y'all aren't doing the job, but the more hands, the more minds, the more sharing, the better.
Absolutely.
So yeah, man, no, definitely appreciate you, putting us on about that. I ain't know nothing about that. You might have shared
Yes,
something,
sir.
and I don't recall it, but I'm dialed in now, and hopefully maybe
Thank
we can do something next year to try to help push that initiative forward, man. And
you.
so
Yes, sir.
man, I've enjoyed this time, Constable Bates. I appreciate you coming on the show. Is there anything you want to tell the people before we close?
Man, I just want to thank you first off again for allowing me to come and just talk to the people for a little while. I appreciate everything that you're doing in your community and with your work and how you just support the community. So we definitely thank you and applaud you. And so, and then also just want to tell people, man, we can all do this together, man. But everyone just have to find their passionate place within their community. And so if you do something that you're passionate about doing it, you're going to do it and you're going to do it to the best of your ability. And so my passion may not be your passion and vice versa, but if you find something that you're passionate about doing that improve your community, then overall it's going to start moving in the right direction. So I want people to just be passionate about what they're doing and how they want to help their community. And if we can do that, we're going to make it all work together.
Wow. Yeah, man. I totally agree. Where can we find you? I'm assuming Christopher Bates on Facebook. What's your Instagram?
Facebook. Yeah, Crystal Bates on Facebook. Instagram is constable underscore Chris 1906. I'm on LinkedIn at Christopher Bates. And then I have a website through the county, and I can be reached there. As you go to Jefferson County website and you click constables, you'll see precinct 2, and everything will pull up on there. So very accessible, man, through social media. And so I'm here, man. I'm not going nowhere. I'm here to stay.
All right, man. Well, I sure appreciate your time. And you just hang tight. I'm gonna close this up, but man, great words of wisdom from somebody who's been doing it for almost a decade now,
Yeah.
serving this community, leading from a seat of law enforcement, being a great example of what law enforcement can be, what it should be. Not only serving in the responsibility of the office, but extending himself out into the community and trying to make a difference, man. So, Chris, we definitely appreciate you, and thank you for joining the TPE.
Thank you.
Take this, my